All right, guys, we're finally getting to a good part of the debate here where Destiny and this government official in Israel clash on is there even a blockade in Israel in Gaza right now? Is Gaza even blockaded? I guess this guy on the right, who I'll show you right now, he doesn't even know what the definition of blockade that Destiny just gave. And he kind of strawman Destiny's argument. He said, oh, well, if the blockade is to stop ammunition, then I hope all blockades continue. But Destiny was trying to clarify, ships cannot enter into Gaza. I doubt material is allowed in if it's dual use. And you guys pick and choose what's the dual use material. Therefore, yes, there's a blockade on Gaza. I'm actually surprised that this guy couldn't even relate or understand this. But yeah, guys, we're getting to the part where they're kind of clashing on this. I think it's going to get a little bit heated, so let's watch.
We need to keep a very close eye on what kind of arms and ammunition gets into Gaza. I think that's a must.
So Israel doesn't just block arms and ammunition from going into Gaza. Israel blocks every single ship. You're not allowed to dock in Gaza coming from the Mediterranean. You have to dock in Israel.
You can bring things in through Israeli.
Yes, that's called a blockade. Yes, when you say that you cannot control anything coming in and out of your country, it has to go through our checkpoints, and we have to investigate everything. Nothing can come in through sea. That's fine. I understand.
Okay, I think what he doesn't understand is a blockade doesn't mean that nothing enters. Blockade means you pick and choose what enters, what doesn't. That's the difference. And Destiny got him here, man. The guy, I doubt this guy has a response here.
You want him to smuggle arms? I don't understand.
I'm telling you that a blockade exists, and you say no, and then you tell me why the blockade exists. I know why the blockade exists. I understand it. I'm sympathetic towards it, but you're telling me why it exists. You say, well, we don't want arms and ammunition again. I understand. But what you're doing to prevent that is called a blockade. You're controlling all of the air access, of which there is none. You're controlling all of the sea access, of which there is none. And then you run the checkpoints, and then Egypt runs checkpoints on their side to get in and out of Gaza. It's a blockade.
That's
like stuff that goes in and out is only what Israel
allows. What I'm saying is, the blockade that prevents people and goods and supplies is one thing. That's a blockade. To keep Gaza demilitarized and having checkpoints, making sure no weapon is getting into Gaza, that's not a blockade. Now, that's we can allow anything that is not arms and ammunition to get into Gaza. That was the case before October 7th. And once Israel will take military control over Gaza, I don't see any reason we will not continue allowing civilians in and out. And also, but we must protect our borders. So what you're saying is, and again, that's why I asked you about Judea and Samaria.
Look, you can protect your borders, but you controlling another state's borders and telling it what it's allowed to come into that state and what's not allowed to come in, that's a blockade. Like, I don't know how he doesn't understand. It's an occupation and a blockade.
Will not allow arms and ammunition to go into Judea and Samaria, but there is not a blockade on Judea and Samaria, despite the fact that we control exits. Land and air, and they don't have sea outlets, so they don't have sea. A lot of countries do not have sea outlets, but it's not called being under blockade. The fact that if I check and everything that you bring in is legitimate, you can say the U.S. is under a blockade because you don't let anyone smuggle in cocaine, because so you have a blockade to prevent cocaine. No, everything that gets into the U.S. is being checked for cocaine and other things, and you don't let it.
Yeah, but that's Gaza's job. That's the sovereign state, and Gaza is supposed to be the one to check its own materials, and they can work with your community. But right now there is no authority in Gaza ever since Hamas was elected since 2007. So you are the authority. You blockaded and occupied all of Gaza. What is this? How is this actually something he doesn't understand?
It's not a blockade. It's called a checkpoint.
It's a checkpoint, not a blockade. Guys, it's not a blockade to stop all construction material from coming in, not allow a single ship to dock in the docks. They don't have an airport. I mean, we bomb the airport every time they build it in Gaza. That's not a blockade. That's just a checkpoint, We don't allow nothing to enter or leave Gaza from air, water, or ground without our authority. But yeah, this is just a checkpoint. It's not a blockade. What are you talking about?
Play the semantic games we want. When we say like every country doesn't have a port, that's true. But Gaza is a sea-facing territory. I mean, like, they do have ports. The reason why they don't have access to them or can't utilize them is because the Israeli Navy blocks it. You don't want to call it a blockade if that, I guess, hurts your feelings, or that seems like too extreme a statement. That's fine, but like you're depriving a group of people from being able to exercise any sea, air, or really autonomous land trade. You're blocking them from doing that with military force. You can call it a soft blockade if you want, but I mean,
we're allowing them trade. We allow them trade. We allow people to get in and out. Again,
I did not get an answer. Stopped from going in. You cannot build anything in Gaza because they believe it as to be dual-use material, like it could be used as a weapon.
The border
razors are not allowed to go in. What is he talking about? Like, you can't bring in scissors.
With Egypt is blocked, not by Israel. How come you're not facing? You're not saying that Egypt puts a blockade on Gaza?
I would say that. I'd say Egypt enforces the blockade as well. Sure.
They're doing their checks to protect the border. That's their job. I don't understand what. It's not a blockade. When you're protecting your border, that's not a blockade. That's called border patrol or border checkpoint. Again, why something that happens
look, if it's
in
on
Israel?
Your end, look, if Egypt is stopping any ships from docking in the ports of Gaza, then you can call that a blockade. But Egypt is not doing that. Egypt actually wants to give autonomy to the Gaza region. Israel is sucking its autonomy away from it. Egypt is what it's doing is border control because it's only on its side of the border. It never affects the other side. It only allows things to go in and out of its own borders. It doesn't go and tell another country where it's allowed to come in and out of it.
It's called a blockade. When it's happening outside of Israel, you call.
So, like, for example, Egypt will only control what's coming in and out of Egypt, not going in and out of Gaza. Okay? Whereas Israel is controlling what's coming in and out of Gaza itself, not what's coming in and out of Israel.
With the checkpoint.
If anybody else outside of Israel was embargoing or preventing, free travel through rivers or through seas or through straits, I'm pretty sure people call that a casus belli. People use that as an actual cause for war. Israel itself did it in 67 and they did it in the Suez Crisis in 58, 56. This is known. So no, I don't think other states are normally in the business of blocking sea travel and preventing territories from having airports or any kind of air travel. It's not ordinary or normal.
So again, we are in a state, as you see, a state of war. Judea and Samaria, we allow people and goods to go in and out. We do not allow weapons. That's not a blockade. Again, if you call it a blockade, it's a very strange, it's a playing with words, as you said. That's a playing with words. But I really don't, we can dig into it way more. But again, you
really, he's the one playing with words. He's the one acting like he doesn't understand what occupation and a blockade is. Would you accept that you're at least occupying the land? No, he's going to tell you no.
Somehow, and I think that's a moral, it's a bad thing to do, I have to say. You compare the idea, I think that the state of Israel has a right. You said occupied. I don't really know who did we occupy Judea and Samaria from. If you can enlighten me, I would be very appreciative. We did not occupy Judea and Samaria from anyone. But if you want to say that we occupied Judea and Samaria for some strange reason, call it West Bank. Again, very strange reason.
Call it the West Bank. Can you believe that? What is he talking about? Does he believe the Balfour Declaration is actually a legal document that gives him authority over Judea and Samaria? No, he didn't. That's not the document that gives you authority over Judea and Samaria. So why won't you accept the Palestinian mandate? Do you not understand that there used to be a Palestinian mandate? Well, they're actually anti-British ruling. They're actually anti-colonialism. It's weird that they're imperialists, but they're actually anti-imperialist rules. It's so weird. But do you guys see what's happening here? The guys are colonialists. They believe that Judea, now he calls it Judea and Samaria. He doesn't even understand why Destiny calls it West Bank. Wow. Well, we call it the West Bank because it used to be the Palestinian mandate. Do you know what the Palestinian mandate was? It never was the Israeli mandate. Legally speaking, it was the Palestinian mandate. But you're going to act like the Balfour Declaration has more authority over the Palestinian mandate documentation. So this is the joke that this guy is basically pushing, is that Balfour Declaration has more legal authority over what was the Palestinian mandate documented. and given to the Arabs.
The fact
the Gaza Strip was occupied from Egypt in 67, and the West Bank was occupied from Jordan in 67, and I think the Golan Heights were also occupied from Syria.
We did not speak about the Golan Heights, but if you want, we can do that also.
Yeah, let's speak about Golan Heights. That would be great.
For that matter, I am talking about Judea and Samaria. Judea and Samaria was held illegally by Jordan since from 49 till 67. We are holding between.
But that's by 49. It's not that it was illegally occupied by Transjordan. It belonged to Transjordan before it was cut into the Palestinian Mandate. It's always belonged to Transjordan. Then the British cut it. So you can't just sit there and say, oh, the Transjordan occupied it illegally. No. The British cut it away from the Transjordan, sucked it out of the Transjordan, and that's what happened. But you see how he's playing with the words, guys? Because in 1948, legal documentation made Palestinian Mandate a legal authority, there's actual legal documentation the British made to make the Palestinian Mandate authorized for the Arabs and the Palestinians. And so he can claim that Transjordan was taking the Palestinian Mandate, the West Bank from the Palestinian Mandate. He can claim it. But the joke is they don't actually have any documentation to prove that they actually own the Palestinian Mandate besides the Balfour Declaration. And the Balfour Declaration is not a legally recognized documentation. How can you recognize a contract made between a random dude and a state? And it's one letter. It's not even an actual contract, it's a letter. And so that's the joke here, that the Balfour Declaration is more of a legal document and gave Israel the authority to take over all of Israel. But the Palestinian Mandate, which was the legal document that was given, the British gave to the Palestinians, that I guess Israel did not break the rules by taking over that Palestinian Mandate. Even when they break the rules over Resolution 181, for example, by taking over 30% more than what they were supposed to take.
Almost no country recognized it as belonging to Jordan, and Jordan itself waived all its rights in the 80s. So if you want to say we occupied it from Jordan, okay, so Jordan can have a claim, but Jordan does not have a claim. We have a peace agreement with Jordan, and Jordan said we don't want this land. So apparently we're not occupying it from Jordan anymore. The same thing goes from Gaza. Gaza Strip was illegally held by Egypt from 49 till 67. We took it back. It was in the middle a few times also with us before, but doesn't matter. We took it back. But again, we have a peace agreement with Egypt. Egypt does not want the Gaza Strip. And you see, not only they don't want the Gaza Strip, they are blockade. As you say, they're enforcing their quote-unquote blockade. So apparently they're making the fence between them and Gaza Strip even higher. So they don't want it. So who are we occupying it from? No other country. So there is a made-up country that we occupied.
This is such BS. I mean, no wonder Destiny is laughing. No wonder. What a BS argument here that, oh, well, no other country wants it, so we're not really occupying it, we're just taking it because no other country wants this land. What a load of BS. Imagine a country just says, no, I don't want that land. What a load of BS.
That never existed.
That's why he's
never
laughing.
Existed. And now you're saying that if we are not giving this made-up country that was never existed, in existence, the right to bring in.
So the Palestinian Mandate never existed, huh?
Weapons to kill us. We're doing an illegal blockade on a country that was never existed. In existence, I'm really confused with the fact, I have to say.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yalla, Destiny, destroy them.
So I'm glad I get to argue with somebody on the far right because I see the same types of games that are played on the far left. I think. Okay. So one issue that people on the far left have when they're critical of Israel is they constantly weaponize or they use international law in ways that don't make sense. They might reference, Resolution 242 over and over again, despite the fact that 242 doesn't refer to a Palestinian state or demand that one is created. That might refer to the occupied territories, and it can be rightfully pointed out, well, occupied territories from who? In 48, these territories were illegally occupied by Egypt and Jordan, which is true. And to say that all this international law means that Israel ought to do this or that, and it's the only way that the situation can be resolved, is a silly statement. And I would agree with that. None of the bilateral negotiations that Israel has agreed in historically have started or ended with this is what international law says. I agree with that. However, on the flip side, I think it's equally silly to say things like, well, what occupied territories? Sure, they weren't occupied from a Palestinian state. I agree with that. One has never existed. But to pretend like there aren't millions of Arab people that feel completely dispossessed from their land, that have no political autonomy, that feel...
What do you mean the Palestinian state never existed? Like an actual state? Because immediately we shared it with the Jews. What do they mean that the Palestinian state never existed? What is the Palestinian mandate then? What was the British mandate of Palestine? What is that then if it's not Palestine state?
Like they need to engage in acts of terrorism, that have no self-determination as a people. That's clearly and obviously true. The people in the Gaza Strip, people in the West Bank don't feel like they have autonomy. They don't feel like they have a good settlement of their situation. That situation needs to be resolved.
But
so whether we want to... What?
Do they want autonomy?
I would say so. It seems to be the case.
So why did they voted?
Please don't scroll. Listen to me. My name is Hiba from Gaza.
Okay.
Why did they vote in such vast numbers against for the political movement and for the religious movement of Hamas that says specifically that they don't want autonomy, they do not want to self-rule, they want to kill all the Jews. So you're giving them excuses. That I don't know why you're giving them those excuses.
When your choices are between, first of all, when we say autonomy, I don't necessarily mean like democratic autonomy or something like that. I mean autonomy as a collection of people, right? The idea that the only choices you have are, democracy or slavery is not necessarily true, especially in your region of the world. There are, Arab states that prefer, for whatever reason, secular dictatorships, Islamic dictatorships, whatever.
A dictatorship, it does not make sense, I have to say. You
can have a dictatorship. Egypt is an autonomous country and has been historically, even if ruled by a dictator. Even if you have a dictatorial leader, you still are autonomous as a state. The individual people might not have democratic freedoms, but you still have autonomy as a state to do things, number one. And then number two, when you say like, well, why did they vote for Hamas? I think voting for Hamas is pretty dumb, and Hamas is a pretty horrible group of people. But, and I know that you agree with this, it's not like historically the PLO was way better. You're not about to sit here and defend Arafat or the history of the PLO. Yeah, sure. And the Palestinian Authority is largely composed of the PLO. The Palestinian Authority has been largely accused of being corrupt for a variety of reasons, whether that's because people feel like they're just a security subcontractor for Israel, whether they feel like because the Palestinian Authority was staffed by a bunch of corrupt bureaucrats from Arafat, whether they feel like the Palestinian Authority don't represent local leadership in a good way and just make a ton of money off the suffering of people. There's a lot of reasons why people didn't like the Palestinian Authority or the PLO or even Fatah, as part of the PLO. There are reasons why people voted for Hamas. It sucks and it's unfortunate, but to pretend like the people were just like, well, we're sitting here and we're peaceful and we're going to vote for the terrorist party because we just want to kill all the Jews, right. I think is a little bit simple.
Not peaceful. You're right, Destiny. They're not peaceful. And the entire idea behind the claim there is Palestine and there is a Palestinian state is like to say, I heard this term in the past, and I think it's true. Palestinian to Arabs is what Nazi for Germans. There are Arabs, a lot of Arabs, and they deserve human rights and they deserve anything. And by the way, before you made this kind of equal sign between the Likud and Hamas, because the Likud wants to have a country from the river to the sea. That was your comparison. But the Likud, as I think I know what they say and what they want and what is written in their constitution, does not want to kill all the Arabs living between the river and the sea. Unlike Hamas. Unlike actually...
Yeah, but that's not true. That's not true. The Hamas doesn't want to kill every Jew between the river to the sea. No, they just want to get rid of the Zionistic ideology. That's really the charter for Hamas. Anyways, guys, that's the clip I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you how hard there is to debate with Israelis in general, let alone Israeli officials. Seems like they don't even have the same foundation and fundamental basis of logic and thinking like any other human being. It seems like they have a different mind, or like they live in a different era where legal contracts are only admissible if it's their legal contracts, and our legal contracts, like the Palestinian Mandate, I guess didn't actually exist ever, and the only thing that actually existed was the Balfour Declaration. This is what I'm gonna have to assume is what he's talking about, because there's no other way to even think that you occupy this land from people that didn't even want that land. That's such a ridiculous statement to make a claim that, oh well, they didn't even want that land, so we just took it. That's such a ridiculous thing to say. You know that the Palestinian Mandate was mandated by the British to the Palestinians, Arabs, and basically the people that lived in that region. And the Jews, to be honest with you, they just came and stole that land, honestly. Like, the problem with what happened was the Palestinians were just too kind, and the Jews took the land, and all they had to show for they actually owned that part of that land was the Balfour Declaration. That's it. And so what was happening was, it was a facade. There was a game that was being played on the Arabs. They were lied to, given the Palestinian. Basically, the same land was sold to two different people, but one was in general in public, and the other sale was in secret. So we're going to only accept the general public sale. We're not going to accept the secret sale. But that's what the Jews want you to do. The Jews want you to accept the story of the secret sale. They want you to accept the Balfour Declaration as that's the actual authority. That's a legal documentation that belongs to them. But when you look at the Palestinian Mandate, oh well, that's not really a serious mandate. That's not a legal order, I guess, whatever that means. First of all, how do you even know that Transjordan illegally occupied West Bank if Palestinian Mandate was illegal, or you didn't accept the Palestinian Mandate? That means you have to accept the Palestinian Mandate so you actually know that Egypt occupied Gaza illegally and Transjordan illegally. Because if there was no Palestinian Mandate, then how can you claim that they occupied it illegally? You see what I mean? But the problem is they stop thinking after they spew out the first couple of words, and they just it just becomes a contradictory statement. Interested in your opinions, guys. Do you believe this? Do you believe this to be true? Do you believe Gaza is not blockaded right now or occupied? That there is that this is just a checkpoint, this is border control, every country has that? Is this something you actually agree with to him? Do you actually believe that Gaza, IDF is worried about the civilian life and civilian infrastructure in Gaza? Do you actually believe that after they toppled 50% of the civilian infrastructure? That was one of his other claims. But yeah, interested in your opinions, guys. What do you think?